Welcome to Water Within Astrology. My name is Carly. This is the Capricorn full moon forecast for you today, coming to you live from Cherokee Park. I'm in the middle of a bridge over top of a creek. Couldn't get that in the shot very much, but that is where we are. We are a bridge over troubled waters, and we are at a point of needing to build that bridge physically and not just verbally and not just mentally and not just ideally in the future, like pushing it off, procrastinating, pushing it off, making excuses as to why it can't happen now. And that's what this full moon is talking about, because Capricorn is about wisdom, deep earth wisdom, deep ancestral wisdom that is to be respected because of its experience, because of its longevity, because of its resiliency, because of its ability to hold up over time. And that is Saturn. And Saturn is the ruling planet of Capricorn. This full moon is happening on Moonday, and that's going to be relevant because we have a lot of Cancer energy going on. We're going to get into it. And as we know, the sun is in Cancer. Happy birthday to Cancer sun people out there. I'm a Cancer rising. We love to see it. We are finishing up Jupiter in Cancer. Just a day after this full moon, Jupiter moves into Leo, so we are at Jupiter at 29 degrees of Cancer at the time of this full moon. That is a big player because it's not only at the energetic degree of 29 degrees, but it's Jupiter, the biggest planet in the solar system. In its exaltation, its favorite place, Cancer, its strongest place where it can be its most Jupiterian self. And so we're gonna talk about it because it's also conjunct Mercury. And so the sun is in Jupiter, Mercury's in Jupiter, or the sun is in Cancer. Oh my God. Jupiter is in Cancer, Mercury is in Cancer. That's 3. Almost a stellium in Cancer. So big Cancer energy, big feelings with Jupiter in Cancer. All year has been big feelings, perhaps. Especially because it's also paired with the North Node in Pisces, which is shifting around the same time as Jupiter is. So we're getting to the point where the nodes get to be at 0 degrees because they move backwards. So instead of getting to that pivotal 29 degrees, they move backwards to 0 degrees, and then they shift to the sign before them. So the North Node is getting ready to be in Aquarius. The South Node is getting ready to be in Leo. As Jupiter moves into Leo, the South Node then a month later moves into it. So this month with full moon in Capricorn leading up to the full moon in Aquarius, this is going to be a hot time, literally and figuratively, because and astrologically, because of a lot of reasons. Before I get too off on that tangent, this is happening on Moonday, so ruled by the moon, Cancer energy. June 29th is the day, and it's going to be happening at 7:57 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so adjust your time according to wherever you're located. 29th is not the last day, but it's almost the last day. And it's June 30th is when Jupiter moves into Leo. So, and on June 29th, Mercury as well, like we just said, is conjunct Jupiter, is going retrograde on the same day. And so, at 8 degrees is where the sun is in Cancer. At 8 degrees is where the moon will meet up at its exact opposition to be the full moon peak at 8 degrees as well. So looking at where you have 8 degrees of Cancer and looking at where you have 8 degrees of Capricorn. And so we also want to look at, just in general, the cardinal signs, right? Because I said we have big Cancer energy, 29 degrees with Jupiter, and then 26 degrees. So the end of Cancer, we want to look at that end of the cardinal signs being Aries, Libra, Cancer, Capricorn. And if you'd like help looking at your chart, I am available for readings, and I'm here to help you understand what's going on, because there is a lot going on at this full moon. I'm not gonna lie. Like there's sometimes there's full moons that are really just chill and there's not a lot of aspects, but this one is big because not only is the sun and the moon squaring its chart ruler, which is Saturn. Saturn rules Capricorn. And loosely still squaring Neptune as well, because they're both still a little bit at the beginning of Aries. And it's also trining the North Node, which is a good thing because we still have Uranus squaring the nodes until it shifts, like I said, at the end of July. So Uranus squaring the nodes has been making us a little bit uncomfortable, feeling like there is a shift forward, there's an urge to move forward, there's an urge to rebel, there's an urge to flip tables perhaps, like especially with Mercury about to go retrograde. There could be some things that we need to be saying, that we are feeling. We need to talk about our feelings with it being in Cancer. And we need to not push it aside anymore and let this window of time pass us by, because Mercury goes retrograde in Cancer for the whole month of July. And that's going to be a big thing because it's going to go over the same territory that Jupiter just spent the last year going over. Jupiter being the planet of education and expansion and learning and wisdom and idealistic living, you know, like this abundance, this like care, this idealistic way of living, this paradise way of living, this godly way of living. Teaching us in the sign of the crab to care for ourselves as if we are God, to care for ourselves and to see our own godliness, to see our own divine feminine as a beautiful superpower instead of a weakness, instead of a, whatever we've been conditioned to think about. Like shame has been really big with this South Node in Virgo, purging all this shame, purging all this stuff. Like, I know I just keep saying it every video, but it's because it is a long transit with the nodes. And Uranus is shaking all that shit up right now, and this full moon is trining it, so we're getting that support to see what it is we still need to let go of, what we're still being a little bit stubborn about, because Capricorn has the tendency to be stubborn. All the signs that have horns can be stubborn and butt heads and be, like dig their hooves in, all the ones with hooves. But they have also the mermaid tail, right? So there's an emotional aspect to it, there's a feminine aspect to it, and there's a depth to it, but not too deep, because Capricorn is the goat head. The goat part of it cannot survive underwater. So it's a liminal space, right, between the worlds, between the wet, because it can't go on land fully with that fish tail. So yeah, it's just hanging out, and it's the last earth sign, and that means it's got the most wisdom. It's accumulated the most wisdom because it's been through the wheel. And we can listen to our elders now. We can be turning to them for wisdom, maybe more so even our female ancestors, because of Mercury being the planet of communication, being conjunct Jupiter in Cancer. We could be like getting together with our grandmothers, or like with our mother's lineage, or like, getting to know our roots and lineages in wherever, that shows up. Like the Cancer rules the lineages and the homes and the roots and the upbringing. And so whatever we came from, wanting to know, maybe where our family's located, like in the world, where our ancestry comes from, especially still because it's also related to Capricorn, being the elders, being this like wisdom keeper, being this one that passes down the legacy. And what legacy are we creating, and what legacy have we been passed down? And how much has that been so painful, right? Because like there is a reckoning that's going on with a lot of people, and awakening to the trauma, the generational trauma that we all have been given and handed down and expected to heal and expected to perform and expected to, you know, just like alchemize. And a lot of us have, and a lot of us have beautifully stepped up to that plate and cut the cords, and you know, like, but what toll has that taken on us emotionally and like, you know, mentally as well, right? With Mercury being there, it's like there is a like maybe mental toll that has occurred through whatever pain, whatever nostalgia, whatever, you know, maybe like and hopefully it's good stuff that we're reminiscing on and that we're dealing with, because Jupiter is the great benefic. And like I said, it's in its happiest place of Cancer, so hopefully there's just like a beautiful, like, reminiscent summer. It's going to get even more extra when Jupiter moves into Leo, because then it's going to be like, yeah, those extra outfits, those extra like costumes and, you know, festivals and music and live dancing, you know, like dance classes, you know, getting creative in any way, or just like getting into something that really brings out our inner child is going to be big this summer. And I think, you know, figuring out again still like we are godly beings having a human experience. And we can now remember that, and we can also like shine that light and know that that is the confidence that we've gained in Jupiter and Cancer. And now we move into the Leo with the confidence that we've gained in our safe place that we've created, hopefully in that Cancer stuff. I know I talked about that in the last video too, but yes, I love it. It's great. I am excited to have Jupiter in my second house, because I hope that means I get some money. I'm hoping this channel blows up. I'm hoping that we can all create a big community together where we share our ideas about what's going on in the world and about what the astrology means to each and every one of us. Like, that is what I envision for this Jupiter in my second house. So yeah, let's do it. So, yeah, chart ruler is Saturn, and Saturn is in Aries, you know, and we know that Saturn just moved into Aries in February, and it's going to be there for 2 years, 2.5 years, and it's going to be a time of learning how to discipline ourselves, to have discipline around our self-awareness, our self-maintenance, our ego, right? Like the ego is kind of being like stamped down by this Saturn weight of reality and this humble aspect that Saturn can bring to the ego. This like maybe hit to the ego, you know, like brutally hitting our confidence actually. So like that could be working against us with this Jupiter in Leo, where it's like, yeah, we just don't feel like we can get ahead. We feel like we've got this heavy weight that's on our shoulders and like weighing us down as individuals, and like weighing us down in the motivation aspect of what we're trying to get started, right? Because Saturn in Aries is a new beginning, but Saturn in Aries is also like 1 foot on the brake and 1 foot on the gas at the same time. So it might be just feeling like constant burnout, like constant like flooding the engine, like, oh my God. So that could be, yeah, like really big. And there could be a lot of exhaustion right now actually with these big shifts of Jupiter moving into Leo, because that could be more burnout too. Like it could be blowing up this Leo aspect to want to do everything and like be out and like maybe have some FOMO, or like, you know, just like do it all because of like for the plot, or like for the drama, or for the whatever of it all, like the fame, the notoriety, like, you know, and then it's like burnout. So let's not forget that like self-healing journey that we've been on with Jupiter in Cancer. Really, really keeping that in mind. Right before this full moon happens, we actually have a grand Earth trine happenings with the south node of Virgo, right? Earth sign Virgo. 2 degrees. 0 degrees of Chiron, who has freshly just moved into Taurus. So we're working with the wounds of the Earth Mother with Chiron in Taurus for the next however many years. And then we have, it's actually going to move back to Aries in September, but then it's going to go back for a while, and we'll talk about all that soon. But right now, just know that it's there at the beginning of Taurus. 8 degrees is where the moon is in Capricorn. That's at the time of this full moon. So that is happening. Grand Earth trine is very supportive, and it's, like I said, helping us build this bridge over troubled waters and build the bridge between the duality, because we are just coming out of Gemini season, where we got shown the duality stuff that we have every year with Gemini season. And so what has that been is good to know, because that can be really disorienting and confusing, because Mercury is like the trickster, and there could have just been like some crazy mind games going on, or like some, just taking note and writing down, journaling, perhaps what was going on for you is very much recommended. Saturn is just doing that square to the sun and moon, so the full moon, and trining Venus. So the last new moon in Gemini, we had a square to Saturn, Venus. Now maybe we have some like resolve around what we were seeing around the time of the new moon. Maybe we're feeling like there's some more like practical forward motion with that Saturn aspect to Venus in our relationships, or in our money, and in our self-worth, all that stuff. But that Chiron in Taurus is definitely a hit to our self-worth as well. Like, we are getting some, Aries is the ego, Saturn is there, Taurus is self-worth, Chiron is there, the wounded healer. And then we have, the South Node and Jupiter in Leo, which could be blowing up the ego and also stamping on it, South Node purging it at the same time. South Node is the tail of the dragon in Vedic astrology, K2. So that is, whatever we're dealing with the Leo house, whatever we're dealing with the Leo characteristics and stuff like that, we are purging it out and cleansing it for the better. This is going to be a good thing. I think it's going to be a purging of leaders that are not good, because Leo also rules over royalty and leaders and hierarchy systems, and just like leaders. It should be a heart-led leader. Ideally, that's what Leo is like a king who actually cares about the people, and the people like love him in return. There's a heart connection there. And then what we have is the shadow right now. It is, the not heart-led, and we do not feel cared for by our leaders, and we do not feel, that they have our best interests at heart, or even if they have a heart at all. Like, let that sink in. Saturn in Aries is, also knowing that we are separating from our systems. Like, we are learning to be independent. We are learning how to discipline ourselves to become self-reliant in Aries. And that is difficult, to go our own way. And hopefully we have a support system, right? Because that's what Jupiter in Cancer could have been doing for us the past year, is like helping us create a safe support system. And that could involve other people. Hopefully it does. It could also be, just like creating whatever safety you've been needing to create. Especially since we had Uranus in Taurus for the past however many years, and that created a really huge rupture in our sense of safety and stability. Especially, of course, since 2020, we already know that, but you know, now it's moved on into Gemini, and we can finally maybe have some rest. You know, yes, Chiron is there, but Chiron is also the healer. Yes, it's the wound, but it's also the healer. So maybe coming in and healing these wounds of stability and chaos, and, you know, that could also, like I said, have been a hit to the self-worth, like shaking up our self-worth and image, body image, like all this stuff. So there's a lot. Like I said, try not to get too lost in all this stuff. Let's keep going. Let's talk about those aspects to Jupiter, because like I said, Jupiter at 29 degrees of Cancer in its exaltation is a big deal. We are not downplaying it. It is conjunct Mercury, which is going retrograde on the day of this full moon in Cancer. Big deal. Mercury's like the messenger, right? And he's going to go back over the territory Jupiter just came. He comes up right now to Jupiter and he's like, okay, big boss, tell me what to do. And he's like, you're going to go back over and you're going to tell me what you thought. And so he goes back over. He's the logical mind. He is going back over all this territory with the retrograde, and then we're coming back at the end of the month. We're going to see what we learned. And we're hopefully going to be able to cognitively understand it, truly integrate it into the mind, integrate it into our daily lives, Mercury. New self-care routines, right? New permanent self-care routines that were being like solidified in the Mercury retrograde. So hopefully we're also like maybe just learning like not to be so reactive, because Saturn and Neptune and Aries can be very reactive, can be very delulu. And then, you know, with the Cancer stuff, we always have a chance of getting crabby, getting moody moon. Cancer's ruled by the moon. You know, it's crazy. This time of year is crazy because Cancer is ruled by the moon. The sun is there. We're going to have that full moon in Cancer. Or, sorry. No, we're going to have the new moon in Cancer. And then that'll be the big moon moment. And then we're going to move into Leo season, which there's going to be a big Leo moment soon, I think, unless everything moves on. I'm not sure. We'll have to wait and see. But I'm thinking it's going to be like a similar moment where we had with Aries season, where it was just like a massive lineup of planets in Aries. Fire. Year of the fire horse, right? They ain't playing, right? Let's check in. Saturn tells us to slow down and say, okay, where are we at, right? We know that's what the solstice is this moment where the sun stands still in the sky at the highest point. And so there's a moment of stillness, like maybe 3 days, if not like more or less, depending on where you're located. And this moment is asking us to slow down and take stock of what we have left or what we have not done in Capricorn, because Capricorn deals with lack and what we need to like cut back on. So there could be a lot of that going on with finances, especially with the square to Saturn. That could be like reality checks around whatever it is. We know a little bit more what could be happening when we look at our chart and we see what house Capricorn is in. So like for me, it's my 7th house of relationships. I'm looking back 6 months ago when we had the Capricorn new moon, mid-January, and seeing how far I've come now, and I'm just like really amazed at how much has changed and how much growth this year has brought me, and like how much I've grown and how high on the mountain I've climbed, right? This Capricorn analogy, and also Aries, right? The goat climbing the mountain and like doing the thing, and yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm really here for it. So let's keep being here together. I don't want to like overwhelm the amount of information that I talk about because I've already been talking for a while. So this grand Earth trine that occurs at the time of this full moon is also just like a cleansing, right? Like I said, with Capricorn cutting back. Virgo wants to declutter and clean the house and clean the body, so maybe even cleansing, especially with the moon in Capricorn, right? The moon is the body. Capricorn is like, yeah, Saturn, restrictions, limitations. Like, what do we need to put limits on ourselves about? What is this Uranus square the nodes maybe making us realize, right? Like realizations around what we're still not learning about this nodal shift of North Node Pisces, South Node Virgo. What have we learned over the past year and a half about trusting the unknown, about letting go of perfectionism and shame and the plan and logic and, you know, leaning into the woo-woo, leaning into the spiritual, leaning into the forgiveness and the higher perspective, this Neptunian, higher idealistic realm. Like, yeah. Are you still on track to making your legacy come true? I want that to be the big question that you're asking yourself at this full moon. I really want us to make sure that we do not get caught up in the emotional waters that we're in, right? Perhaps we're not in that right now. Maybe we're feeling cut off from it with the square to Saturn. You know, like, it just depends what we're all feeling. We're looking at the long-term sustainability of whatever situation we're dealing with. Always taking into accountability the long term with Saturn. Always taking into accountability the ROI, you know, the wisdom that we've accumulated through experience as well. So we also have Mars conjunct Uranus soon. That's really important because Mars is instability and volatility. Uranus is the instability and unexpected chaos. So Mars this could be a really interesting 4th of July where that occurs and there could be a big event, and I think there's a lot of astrologers that really do think something is going to happen, especially, you know, this Uranus in Gemini is like the wick, and this Jupiter in Leo is like the match to the explosives. So I just need y'all to know that we need this square to Saturn to make sure that we don't be doing crazy shit. And if we do be doing crazy shit, that square to Saturn is going to come in with the consequences, and we don't want to know what's going to, you know, we don't want to find out the hard way. Like, we don't want to learn the hard way with this one. So let's just like keep our cool, right? Because there's a lot of fire and there's a lot of air. And there's a lot of water. Cancer, like I said, can be very reactive as well. So she's not doing us any favors. She is going to be most tempered by the self-care, by the soothing, the self-soothing, the soothing, you know, co-regulation, learning how to not be so codependent and being, you know, like, yeah, not so much of a baby. but still also like knowing that everybody wants connection, everybody wants care, everybody deserves care. Everybody, yeah, nobody should be shamed for that or feel ashamed for that. But there's a difference between being a baby and being, you know, a beautiful, divine, feminine, receptive, magnetic force of watery, beautiful intuition. So, yeah, anything can happen with Mars Uranus, so stay vigilant, stay safe out there, everybody. Let's just make sure we, really are, keeping a lid on it. So we could be dealing with themes around food still, because Chiron just moved into Taurus, which is, food systems, Tauruses, and Cancer is about nourishment, so it's about feeding people as well, and about safety and home and having all the basic needs met. And Capricorn is about having the physical needs met, so it's also related to food and being able to feed yourself and sustain yourself through the winter. Because that's what time of year Capricorn rules. And so, there's also this dark aspect to Capricorn that we always have to talk about because it's associated with the Devil card in tarot. And so we want to make sure that we are staying aware of the dark agendas that are around the food systems that we have in place in this world at this current time in history, and how they've never been darker, and how they have openly, lied to us, and we know that they have lied to us about what is good for us and what isn't good for us, and about the, types of processes that they use on the food, and it's just a mess, you guys. I don't have to get into it. I really just feel like I'm beating a dead horse at this point. If you don't know about the food systems and how horrible they are at this point, you have been, blinders on tight. But so if you know how horrible it is, and there is an act of revolution that we can take with the square to Uranus in the nodes. We could be really wanting to take a revolutionary step forward. And that could be as simple as changing the way that you eat, and that can be as simple as buying different products at the grocery store. That could be, using money as a way of voting with your dollars. And because Capricorn rules all this, politics and leaders, hierarchical systems, kind of similar to Leo, but Leo is more of leaders and royalty and opulence and flashiness, and Capricorn is more the behind the scenes, CEOs, leaders, big banks and stuff like that. So right, what kind of stuff is just lurking in the shadows that is just really not, we cannot afford to ignore it anymore. Especially because with that square to Saturn, it's are we really seeing what's going on, seeing the reality of the situation? Or are we still ignoring? Are we still, is our ego still in denial with it being in Aries? I don't know. So it's pretty crazy. That's just something that I thought was coming through maybe, but, I definitely am biased on that one. I just thought it fit. Capricorn is the way that our connection to Source manifests in the physical. So that beautiful lesson that we've learned with Jupiter and Cancer the past year could be that we've learned how to channel our connection with Source into creativity, because Cancer is very creative and very, related to the creative force of the feminine. And then the Capricorn is how it manifests in the physical, how we do the work, how we, discipline and show up and bring it into reality. So first established that connection, and now we're going to get, now hopefully our efforts are going to be seen in Leo, because it's a more visible, shining star. Now that we've taken our time in our solitude, maybe there's been a beautiful project that we've been working on the past year, and now we're finally ready to reveal it to the world. Maybe after Mercury is not retrograde anymore, but because that's not recommended to do any new projects, launches, or anything like this. So waiting till maybe August, but I can't tell you what to do, and you know yourself best, and you can look at your own chart, and your chart might indicate that there's something better. There's a better time. So let me know what you're feeling for this full moon. I think it's really going to be interesting to see the systems, the structures, the 4th of July-ness, whatever happens there. There should be some consequences for some people who are still not being held accountable for what they have done in the politic world, the world of the politics. Anyways, that could be something that's coming around here. So let's draw a card. I had to do the Magic of the Unicorns deck because I learned recently that Cancer is very much associated with unicorns, and I'm like, duh. Of course they are. Horses are already just associated with water, because a mare is a spot on the moon, and the moon rules over Cancer, so that's why it's associated with Cancer. And the moon also is what pulls on the tides, right? So it's ocean. And a unicorn horn is also used as a vessel or a goblet to drink from. Anyway, so there was some more stuff, but I can't remember right now. I was just like, yay, they're so mystical and magical, and I've always been obsessed with unicorns, and I'm a Cancer rising. Oh, it was the last unicorn was killed in the flood, Noah's flood. So, yeah, anyways, I like it. We've got soul satisfaction on the bottom of the deck. Honor your uniqueness. Do what makes you feel good. It's a family and a dad working in a garden. Little girl. Here we go. We got it right off the bat. Oop. Cosmic Diamond. Spread hope and joy. Illuminate the world. Beautiful. Beautiful. Cosmic Diamond. The Cosmic Diamond is saying Saturn pressure. Letting this pressure turn us into something that is going to create a legacy that is worth passing down, that we're not going to be ashamed to pass down, that we're not going to be feeling like when we pass it down, we're immediately forcing our children to grow up faster than they need to, losing that inner child, right? We're reclaiming that inner child with the Leo stuff. We're letting go of all the heavy stuff that we know that we have to deal with from our parents, right? The karma that we're dealing with, the Saturn karma. What is it for us? It's unique to all of us, and getting into the details of it, getting into the very, very nitty-gritty specifics. For instance, for me today, I realized that me being the oldest child, right, because there's a lot of dynamics around family stuff coming up with the Cancer. My problem with being friends with people who have children is showing up in my life, and I think I'm realizing it's because I was the oldest in my family dynamic, and whenever my sister was born, the next child, I probably was not happy about losing some of my parents' attention for her to have it, right? And so me getting colder with my friends who have children is a direct result of me being hurt as a child because my sister came into the world and I wasn't the only child anymore receiving love from my parents. And, you know, that's innocent enough. Nobody did anything wrong. It's just realizing from a higher perspective what happened. Nobody needs to blame anybody. Nobody needs to go into the drama of it. There's going to be a lack of like putting up with drama with this South Node Leo. Yeah, so this says spread hope and joy. Don't forget to like remember the optimism that Saturn, that's Jupiter, right, is the optimism in Leo, the sun shining, like the optimism, the light, the joy, the strength, the pride, the courage, all these really noble qualities, right? Nobility, very Leo, noble, heart-led, heart shining, really open with your expression about how you feel. You know, like you've gotten in touch with your feelings with Cancer, and now we're able to express them outwardly with Leo. We're able to turn them into art and into a performance and into a dance, like our own cosmic dance with the universe. And our feelings are what is like driving it and like opening us up into a deeper embodiment of it through the performance, you know. And I'm saying performance not literally. It can be literally with Leo for sure, but it's also just like all of us are here. This is not a dress rehearsal. Every day is the main event, right? Like this is main stage performance that we're doing here. And so we, yeah, maybe are being, our ego could be humbled about being beginners still with the Saturn Aries, but it's gonna take time. So let's be patient. Remember to be patient and be present and be grateful with the Leo Jupiter. One of the big things is gonna just be really remembering that how much power there is in gratitude and in the present moment, and how joy only exists in the present moment. And we, are in for a beautiful, hot girl summer. I mean, let's be real. Let's talk about the spicy side of Leo. Like, she is the moment, okay? So, she is king of the jungle. Confirmation. That already did. We're going to do the runes really quick before it starts raining on me. Oh, Wonjo. Joy, pleasure, harmony, kinship. Beautiful. Leo, Cancer, togetherness, happiness, confidence, security, safety, love, beauty. Like, let it be that much of a hot girl summer where we are just all feeling so cared for and loved and seen and, you know, adored and just like worshipped and like, yes. All right. See you in 2 weeks. Love you.